Okay, then we will start. Thank you very much.
The guy that was our guy.
Ladies and gentlemen, I like to call the meeting to order. I was so excited to have a view of the clock, and now I learned that it's 5 minutes slow. So it is 4:17, and we will begin our library board meeting. Welcome. We'll start with a call to order, and I will read off. Please let me know that you are here. You have your materials, if remote, and we'll get started. Marvin Curtis.
Here.
Alan. Oh,
He's
here.
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks.
Okay,
I'm
good.
here and I received my packet.
Thank you. Terry,
Yes, I'm here and I have my material.
Ann,
Here and I have my materials.
John,
I'm here and I have my materials.
and Ruth.
I'm here and I have my materials.
And I am also here, but 5 minutes late. Okay, so we've determined that we have a quorum, and we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Now, this is something that we're doing that is completely new, and all the materials are in front of you and in your packet. Instead of going through all the materials, unless you have questions about any of them, we will vote on the consent agenda as a whole. But I think Stephanie wanted to say a few words about the different items that are considered within the consent agenda.
Yes, so since this is new, there's been a little confusion on all parts. So the personnel changes you have in front of you separately as a separate piece of paper, that is what you're used to seeing. And that will be part of the consent agenda as well. So then we have the board minutes, the withdrawn library materials, and pay the bills. So it's just one motion for all of those together.
So, as we have done in the past, we'll call for a motion and a second, and then any discussion or questions you have will follow the motion and second, and then we can take the vote. So let's start with, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? We have motions and seconds. Is there discussion or questions about any of the items enclosed within the consent agenda?
I couldn't find any matches for that.
All right, Siri.
Thank you, Siri.
Because she wants to be part of the.
She wants to be in the minute.
She was not considered part of our quorum. Okay, is there anything that you would like to address, or anything from human resources, or anything else?
We've got a couple personal things in my board report.
Okay, so that will be, so if I'm hearing no questions or further discussion, I will call for a vote. Marvin?
Aye.
Alan? I saw his mouth say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, good. Terry?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Ruth?
Aye.
And I also approve. Thank you very much. With that, we'll move to the director's report.
All right, so I do have, and the intent was to have one of these for everybody today, but we ran out of paper and the paper did not arrive in a timely manner. But this is what we talked about as a result of the board training. So it's going to have everything in here a board member might need. The organizational chart is in here. In the public trust, which is that document that just outlines what it means to be a public servant. What else do I have? The strategic plan is in here. The 2023 budget is in here. State library standards. And our policies. So you'll all get a copy of this next month for your reading pleasure.
Is that what this is?
Oh, that is, you all have a copy. If you want to leave those, we'll get them bound up for you. We'll put them in some sort of a report folder. But yes, I see you all have them in front of you right now. Perfect. So we have had a busy month. We promoted 2 staff members to manager positions, including Kara Pauley, who was our early literacy librarian, and now she's the area branch manager for Center, Lakeville, and North Liberty. She took Dawn's place when Dawn moved up to branch head. Alex Giorgio was the assistant manager at Western and is now the manager at LaSalle. And Eric Simon, who's our education and programming manager, will be leaving for paternity leave. Congratulations to him. And he will be returning as a substitute. So that position is open right now. I have referred a couple of matters to our attorney regarding water infiltration here, and then an issue with a vendor. So Mr. Masters is working through that for us. The Indiana Library Federation Conference was really good this year. We had 2 staff members present there. I always find that to be a great place to connect with people and to learn something new. And I've been on the conference committee for 2 years. Plan to do it again next year, but this next month will be my last ILF board meeting as a board member. So I'm going to step away from that. I think I'm busy enough right here for the time being anyway. Explore a Story was our big event this month. It was attended by almost 500 people. I was here for it. It was an absolute delight. I just loved it. WinSync was amazing. They brought their instruments. They were so engaging for the kids who came and the families, and the kids got to see the instruments up close afterwards too. But I just thought your team did an amazing job having them come and put that together. And then Tess Gunty is coming this week.
It's Thursday.
Which when staff selected her for our author visit, she was a finalist for the National Book Award. And
She made the
won.
front page of our newspaper, which is so small, but yes,
Yep,
it's a great
so
article.
we picked the winner.
Get lucky every once in a while.
So we're excited to have Tess here this week.
Thursday at
Thursday at
Yeah, 6 PM. And I was just looking, it's reservations. And I was just checking to see how we're doing, because it was going like hotcakes last week.
oh.
So let me see, I'll let you know.
You'll hear more about the compensation plan from Karen and Jeanette in a little bit here. We did do a walkthrough of this building, both with Arcos for the furniture plan, and that was really helpful because we learned a lot about the reasons why the furniture was picked and where it was placed. And there were just a couple of warranty issues that we found with that. And in terms of the building, we did that one with Arcos and Andrew and Bully. Aside from the water infiltration, we don't really, like, there were a couple of very minor warranty issues. So the water infiltration is a big deal, and we are working on that and pursuing remediation for that. But other than that, everything looks good. So, and then we potentially have a new board member. We're still waiting on the county council to approve that appointment. Could always be that the county council has their own person in mind, but I haven't typically found that to be the case. So Dr. Nicole Garcia is the principal at Clay International Academy. She grew up on the west side of South Bend. She's a huge library supporter. She makes sure she has a certified library professional in her school library all the time. So we'll be happy to have her. And then Dr. Curtis expressed interest in re-upping his term. So I've sent that over to the county commissioners. So we're stuck with him for a couple more years. We're happy to have him. Any questions?
Questions?
I just want to thank John for his service.
We will continue to thank him. He was salvation when he stepped up when Augie had the audacity to move to another county. Really been most helpful. Yeah.
I think this would be a great addition. You know, when we lost Maritza, this was a sort of a slot in our whole community that needed to have a voice.
Mhm.
And that's a good thing.
Yes, well, I just appreciate you being here, John, for so many years. I mean, just a couple. You're not old enough to have been here for so many years, but
Thanks.
so couple years.
Any other questions? With that, do we move on to the
Patron engagement. report?
patron engagement? report?
Do you typically do a motion accepting my report?
We
or
do
no?
it all together.
Okay.
With patient engagement,
Patron,
patron engagement.
Well, thank you for your patience. And also we do have stuff left. So, first, I just have a few points to make on the statistics. I think you can kind of see we're definitely getting into a rhythm and we're falling back into some patterns that we saw back in funding. Interesting to look at the trends over time. One thing is our circulation of physical and digital items is around 164,000. 119,000 of that total is in physical circulation. And what we're seeing is 38% of that is renewals, which some of that is tied into the fact that we're getting more renewals because we have automatic renewals, so people are able to keep their materials longer, and it's a much more convenient way for people to extend. And I don't know about you all, but it takes me longer than 2 weeks to read a book. So we have about 46,000 active card holders and a total of 87,000 card holders. So that means that about half our card holders are actively using the library within a year. And while this month is lower than in years past, we are seeing a higher month-to-month percent growth than in the past. So how we're growing every month this year is at a greater pace than we've seen in past years, which I think tied in with looking at the active card holders is giving us some indications of use, you know, and not just cards in pockets, but cards actually being used to check out materials or use the library in other ways. And finally, there were about 52,000 visits to all library systems across our system. And
For a month or for a year?
for 1 month. In the month,
Good.
52,000 people walked through our doors in the month, and this is a 21% increase from last year.
Wow.
Yay,
Thank you.
that's wonderful. Any questions about the patron engagement statistical report?
I have one. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Oh. What do we do with the inactive people? Contacted them?
One of the things that we do is we send out a email series. So we do have quite a few emails for all of these active card holders. So we send out a series that goes out after 3 months of inactivity, 6 months, and 9 months. And we send them information about digital checkouts, about Bendable, about coming into the library, about programs, local family history, just different ways to kind of keep interest. And we have seen, and I can report on that next month if there's interest. We do see that there are certain things that get people back in. So our data tracking tool tells us how many people have become active because of an email received. And we can see that, you know, if you send out an email about Hoopla, then you get a lot of people who click on and check out books from Hoopla. So I think we use those digital means in order to engage people, but you know, not everyone opens their email, and we don't have email addresses for someone. So it's something we're always thinking about, and tends to be one of our annual goals in communications and education program, especially, is how can we reach those inactive card holders who maybe we can't find through our digital means.
Is there anything that we can do, and I want to say that's cost next to nothing or free, to incite people to come? Like, I'm not saying a free cup of coffee, but you know, something like a mini muffin, or I don't know what, but
Yeah, well, we did do actually a library card promotion with the St. Joe Coffee Co. We found that people were really like delighted to get this coupon to the coffee company when they signed up for their library card. And that was more approaching people who didn't have library cards, and this was more of a gift and an enticement. But I think word of mouth, if we're talking about free ways to do it, it's making sure that when people walk in the door, they have such an overwhelmingly positive experience that they can't help but tell everyone that they know. And making sure that, you know, we're letting people know, you should tell everyone you know about the library.
The controversial children's book reading seems to bring new people on.
I was gonna ask about the dead to the city increase.
We didn't we didn't see anything on that scale, but I think, I did hear a lot of things about the apprentices that were up in all the locations. And I think it gave people a reason to go visit different library branches that they might not have been to in a while or been to before.
Well, I know that word of mouth is excellent, and bring a friend is also excellent, because there's a lot of people who don't walk through the door. I mean, they drive by and go, wow, that's beautiful. But if I say to someone, come on in, let me show you, then they come back.
Mhm.
So,
And we do try to get out in the community at the different events and have a booth there and really just try talking to people who might not be regular library users and tell them what we have to offer. And Jenny's staff does a good job of just hitting all the things.
Yeah, all staff.
Oh, yeah, yes.
And also bring your friends.
Bring them.
so, any other questions, comments? Hearing none, please motion to approve the director's report and patron engagement.
Second,
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? With that, I'll call for votes. Marvin, Alan,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
John,
aye,
Ruth,
Aye.
and I also approve. Thank you very much. With that, we will move to the financial report. Anjanette.
Walking into month 3. We have a fund balance of $24.3 million. And we have had revenue over the year of over $11 million. We have had appropriations spent of 67.87% over the year. We are looking at, as I've been here for a few months, looking at the data and how we're pulling it and how we're putting it on the reports. And our plan is to have some more robust reporting for the board as we go forward, some more detail, just to give you more of an idea of exactly where we are within the library. We also have some grant acceptances that I will give Lisa information for.
Yes, we got the Florence B. Carroll grant. Put up here. So we were awarded $7,300. This is for the promoting early literacy with SBCSC initiative. And this is to strengthen the relationship we have with SBCSD and the early childhood educators there. And also to provide kindergartners with access to the library. And so the funding will support programming expenses for a teacher orientation and a kindergarten field trip to main library. And those expenses include incentives or giveaways, activity and classroom supplies, as well as refreshments.
I do have a follow-up question on that. Are we inviting all the kindergarten children or from specific schools? How does that work?
Yes, but I'm going to defer to Jenny because she's actually working with Jill on this.
So this is something that youth services and Rana and I are working on. Trish and I started the project. But yeah, we're working with every single kindergarten class across the school system, including the empowerment zone. So our youth services librarians have been going out doing outreach visits. We've gotten almost all of them done. There's like 1 or 2 schools that we're still, working on getting scheduled, but they've done outreach visits to every single classroom. And with the invitation to come in February, so we're going to start scheduling them. We're calling it the month of library visits. So all kindergartens, our goal is to have every single kindergartner come into the main library in February. They'll get their library card. If they already have a library card, they'll just get a little laminated version of it, and then they'll be able to check out a book, look at a tour, and it'll be lovely.
Excellent, thank you. Questions or comments regarding the financial report or the grant?
I just remember meeting with Jenny when we had this seed of this idea. So thanks for, this is way bigger than we even thought of at the beginning. So.
Yeah, we decided to just eat the whole cow.
Wonderfully good. Yes. All right, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none. Marvin,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
thank
Aye.
you. Here, Terry,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Ruth,
Aye.
and I also approve. Wonderful. To the best of my knowledge, there's no unfinished business. So we will move into new business, the 2023 wages and salaries. I understand Karen and Jeanette will be talking about that.
Rachel and Sam are gonna put up a presentation for you all. Everybody, have a good Thanksgiving. Okay.
Ta-da.
Well, except that Alan's right in the middle of it, but
Slow down a little bit.
you are featured, Alan.
That's better. Yeah.
And Alan, you can see that just fine.
Actually, it says it says it's loading on my side.
Well, I believe they'll talk their way through it. So if you have questions along the way, just stop them.
Correct. Yes. Well, thank you.
Yeah, okay, so this is our 2023 compensation plan proposal. Probably for the last month and a half, we have diligently been working on analyzing HR data and also budget data to bring you this proposal. We have noticed that we have not done a full compensation plan for probably about 10 years or so. So hopefully this will give you some more information on where we can go.
So, I started working on gathering, I moved mine forward, I don't have the control. I'm just following. I started, pulling data for this report, months and months and months ago, and it's something I've been working on, for a long time, with the goal of updating our ranges, which haven't been updated since 2017. Using that 2013 data, and I know my world is a whole lot different since 2013. I would assume all of you all's is as well. And wages have absolutely skyrocketed across the country. We've all seen this, we all know that this is happening, and we are not immune from feeling those effects. So the biggest goal for us was to create an equitable and sustainable compensation plan and adjust rates as close as humanly possible with our budget to a living wage for our staff. And that also helps with recruitment and retention and decreasing turnover, which luckily compared to the rest of the country, we have done better than most in turnover, but I still hear it entirely too much that, hey, I have to leave because I can make X somewhere else. And ultimately, we want our staff to be able to live off the wages that they earn here. So. Did we go?
It's okay. So what we did was taking the data that Kara had, was we looked at our budget and said, what could we reasonably do? Well, how could we be equitable? How could we get our people to a wage where they feel that they're living well and the library is doing well for them? So we looked at our already approved budget of 8.03 million for salaries. And then we took that and looked at a percentage of that and took the budget to a 6.8 million to be able to completely fund the salaries, open positions, potential open positions going into 2023. The total proposed salary cost will increase from, for 2022, to 2023 by $719,000. This is larger for many of you that have been here for a while. This is larger than we've seen before, but it's also over 10 years, we have not moved the needle to get our people to an equitable wage.
There's also, in addition to that, is that a reason for the increase is that we went from 167 positions when we were proposing the salary cost last year versus we're proposing for 207 potential positions next year. So the increase, I mean, we've moved into this building, we've filled positions. There's more people and that's part of it too. Okay, so how did we get to the numbers that are in all of your packets, the ranges that we're proposing? For a number of years, we've used the National Position Evaluation Plan to conduct, to place positions. And then we did a compensation study with the help of HR Source, which is an organization that is out of Illinois, but they work with a lot of libraries to do exactly this type of work. So they understand how libraries work. But we didn't just use library data. We used data from the region, Elkhart, South Bend Elkhart Regional Partnership, wages from there, as well as comparable libraries to help find those wages. And we wanted to prioritize equity when we looked at the ranges. So some of them are going up more than others, and it's based on making sure that everybody's getting what they should be getting.
Sustainability. How are we going to sustain what seems like a large jump going forward, right? So what we plan on doing is maybe something we haven't done in the past, is actually to start reviewing where the economy is going earlier. So as we go into June, as we go into July, start looking at that and how can we move that up incrementally versus now we've got this 10-year, now we've got a big jump. We don't want to do a big jump again. We want to make sure that we are staying, if we can, ahead of what the economy is doing, if not maybe a step behind, but we want to make sure that we are incrementally moving up forward. And then as we look at it too, if we need to increase the base wage with whatever COLA is doing or whatever numbers that we need to look at, so as inflation increases, that we can attempt to keep up with it and not be 10 years behind it.
Any questions about any of that?
Yes, just one.
Yes.
Could you back up to where you showed the budget dollars and the salary dollars? Yeah. Help me out between the first and second line. We have a budget of 8. With your changes, we only propose 6.8. And why difference? Am I missing something?
Remember that we never receive our entire budget because of the circuit breakers.
Okay.
So we never want to bring it all the way up to that budgeted
Okay, so
number.
you're adjusting.
We want to make, right.
Answer the question.
Yes.
It's always good to have cushion too. You never know
Yeah.
what extra building you're gonna build in the
No.
next year.
You answered the question.
So because I had the same question, so
Sure.
let me make sure I understand. So in the budget, it was for 8.03 million,
Yes.
but what you're proposing now is a 6.9 million. Okay. I was a few degrees behind you, but I didn't understand.
And we did base it partially on expected revenue too. We looked at what we expect to get in revenue because we know we're not going to get the 8.03. So that was factored in. The worst thing would be to move forward with something and then find out it's not sustainable. So Anjanette did a ton of math and I'd be like, go do it again, figure it this way. Kara provided numbers over and over and over again. Like we had lots of eyes on this. So I feel comfortable that this is a sustainable move for us as well.
So.
I've got a question.
Money comes from the county and the city or from the state?
State.
No, it comes primarily from property taxes
Right.
and local income taxes.
Property taxes paid to The county.
to the state of Indiana.
Yeah. And the state has given us our budget, are there?
We
Okay.
just today got notification from the state that our budget was certified at the levels we presented to them in, what was it, September, or October, whenever we did the budget.
So it's done.
So it's done.
Okay.
I always feel good when it's called a 1782, whenever that 1782 comes through and it looks like it's supposed to look, it's always like, whew. So yes,
If you figure this out, how to keep track of the economy and all that kind of stuff and make your slight changes, you're raising the salary maybe compared to what's happening in the economy. But does that mean that we're also getting in more money? I mean, how does that work if you can keep ahead of what's happening or even a step behind? That doesn't mean that we're getting additional money, right?
well, every year we have a maximum budget that we're allowed to seek. And then we also have my words are going to escape me, a growth quotient, the amount by which we're allowed to grow the number. And that's based on, I believe it's the last 6 years of financial data in the state of Indiana. So the state sets those numbers with the assumption that we'll be able to collect that much more money in revenue based on what's going on in the economy. And they do that 6-year average for that number, which gives them a good sense. Growth this year is huge, but maybe a couple of years ago it wasn't. So that balances it out. So that would be a factor that we would use in determining how much we can move it forward to. So it's not something that we can say, we're going to grow wage ranges by this much every year. We are just committing to looking at it every year and doing what we can so that we don't do a 10-year. Because this is a large adjustment, but I would much rather sort of keep up so we don't have to do this kind of large adjustment.
I thought I heard Alan. Did you
Yeah.
have a question, Alan? No.
I do. So the 6.8 million, now I'm going to go back if I could in our board packet, page 36. And that may be one of your slides, but it's the actual chart that shows the salary increases. I don't know, was that on your, is that one of your slides, the actual? Okay.
It's not, that's
So-
information for the board specific.
Okay, so if we look at pay grades 2 and 3, and this is a question I ask probably every year, is we talk about living wages, and I notice that we have 19 people that even with these increases, they're still their average hourly rate's $13.21. And their total salary is $179,000, but they're making less than $15 an hour. And it says that the increase per hour increase was about $288 per person. But the total increase for that whole group was $32,000. So, and I know you all don't like to do this, but I'm still curious if we increased everybody up to, and just decided we were going to go to, because people have said $15 an hour is like the so-called living, the bottom of the living wage. If we somehow moved those 19 people up to $15 an hour, would that be less than $30,000 to bring that whole group up?
I can actually probably tell you, but we've looked at it we've tried putting everybody at that amount. We tried doing every single possible scenario you could possibly do. And we didn't feel comfortable from a financial standpoint with that.
I will say that these positions are all part-time.
Yes, they are.
There's not a full-time position in this bracket.
In one
In one of them.
or two or three?
In 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Those are all part-time positions. Do we want to get there? Yes, but this is a significant increase for them as well. If you see that average per hour increase.
But they're
it's still
not all,
significant.
but I mean, in years past, from time to time, it's been suggested that all those people were high school students, and I don't think that's accurate though, right?
No,
It's absolutely not accurate.
it's not accurate.
Yeah.
And, essentially, ultimately, in the end, that would be a goal to get everyone to that point. And
I mean, I know your all's philosophy is if you move them all up to 15, then you've got to move the whole chart. And I don't know that I subscribe to that theory that everybody else has to move up just because they move up. I mean, I understand that in a total whatever parity situation, that would be the case. But I don't know that I subscribe to that view that you have to just decide that you have to move everybody else up. That
in response to that, I would say we use this national position evaluation plan as a way to determine the complexity of a job, the physical requirements that come with that job, and a number of other factors. And I think as much as I would absolutely love to say across the board, we're giving this amount and it doesn't raise somebody else. You do lose equity from that perspective as well. Because if you do have, let's say, positions that are doing more, doing, harder things, more complex things, it would be unfair to those people to pay them less as well. I think it's a balance of making sure that we can afford it, one, and two, everybody is paid fairly from each other as well as in the world.
Well, but again, from the standpoint, I understand what you're saying, but I think what we're talking about from the standpoint, if we can afford it, I think, am I right that that's less than 30,000? If you're going to bring them all, if you're going to bring all 19 of them up to 15 an hour, that would be the total amount. That would be, wouldn't that be something? It would be something.
Can you math that a minute?
Yeah,
Madam
I mean,
President?
if $288 an hour is a $32,000 increase, we're talking about going up another $1.80 an hour, right?
Oh, okay.
They're gonna math that.
They're
for
gonna
a
math
minute.
it. Ruth has a question.
Yeah, I'm just really nervous, Alan, now about getting into the business as a board member of setting individual salary rates. I think.
Yeah, and
that's really
I'm not
our
looking to that.
role.
I'm just saying philosophically, Ruth, that I mean, we've all heard how a living wage for people trying to live today is, people, have to have a certain minimum amount. And you just hate to think that we're in a situation where you've got folks that were
Remember,
paying.
these are part-time people.
And I
And
would
some
say,
of them-
Ellen, philosophically, we agree with you
100%.
100%. And I think that this is the first move towards making that happen.
And I think if you look across the country, most people are doing it incrementally. And they say within 3 years,
So this,
people will be at that
Yeah.
rate, but
so this puts all of our full-time people at 2 cents short of MIT's living wage, which to me is really fundamentally, we cannot have full-time people living below or working here and have them be below a living wage. Do we want to get our bottom rung up higher? Yes, but I would say that's a move for next year. I'm comfortable with the increase we've given them this year.
Can I clarify for my own sake? I think I heard it right, but it's bounced around quite a bit. The pay grade 2 and 3 levels, those are part-time.
Mhm.
4 becomes full-time for the most part or completely.
Half and half, I would say.
50-50.
Maybe even a little more. I don't wanna,
Okay.
but
they're-
it's mixed.
They're at the 1587.
As an average.
Right, it seems, a person that's only working part-time probably isn't expecting to make a living off their part-time job anyway.
Sure.
So they sometimes get paid less. They're part-time. Good. Now that I'm sure I understand.
Yes.
I didn't see.
Mhm.
And we definitely work to look at part-time. That was one of my questions coming into this, like, why are you paying part-time different than full-time? But when you work the numbers, I have to live in between in the gray area sometimes. So when you work the numbers, it needed to be from an equity perspective. There definitely had to be some delineation at the lower levels.
And are any of the part-time or all or any? Is there a benefit package? Or do they have anything if they're just part-time?
So it depends. So 1 hour through 19 hours, per pay period. Those folks receive, a chance to participate in the Hoosier Start 457 plan, which is like government 401k. And they receive access to our employee assistance program through New Avenues, which provides therapy, counseling sessions for them and their family. And then at 20 hours, that's when more benefits kick in. So at 20 hours, they receive commensurate holiday pay based on their hours. They receive some vacation pay, same thing, commensurate with their hours. It depends on how many hours they work. They receive the ability to participate in healthcare plan, should they choose, dental, vision, from 20 to 30 hours. That's 20 to 39. Again, then full-time gets the whole.
So I think that's commendable. I mean, my experience is most of our time, you get paid and go home. It's all you're gonna get. And this is better than that.
Right.
Thank you. And that was something that we hadn't mentioned, the whole extra pay for benefits. So, okay.
Yes.
Overall, I don't know if you have this in your head, but we used to track a number of what percentage of our total payroll was actually benefits.
Oh, yes. So we know PERF is 11.2%. We know FICA is 7.65. Health insurance is,
Number of people where it's available. I want to say it's about 106, but do not quote me on that number. But I can get it to Stephanie.
but we do track those things, and that,
That was my, not so
Yeah.
much the number,
Mhm.
yeah,
where do we fit in and do we track?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
absolutely. And again, the 6.8 million is if 100% of our positions are filled 100% of the year.
It's not like.
Right.
Thank you. This has been good discussion, but I would like to take a motion. If that's what we're looking for, a motion to accept these projections.
So moved. Second.
We've got motions, we've got seconds. Any further comments? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. Marvin? Alan?
Aye.
Alan? Terry?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Ruth?
Aye.
And I also approve. Thank you for all of your hard work, everybody.
And
Yes,
thank you for your support. We appreciate that.
yes. Okay,
For decades.
moving to other business. I don't believe there is,
Oh, we missed the merit package.
oh, we missed,
Separate.
sorry.
Staff in the room would very much.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Merit package.
Yes. So, in years past, the way that merit was figured was confusing to all. One, and it was, an increase in wages, and it was based on a performance rating that staff would receive at their performance reviews. And then it was also based on where a person was within their range, the salary range. So, for example, if you had someone who received a 5, which is the highest rating you can get, and they were at the very, very top of their range, so they've been here for 20 years, they would receive a smaller merit increase than someone who was at the very beginning of their range. So, right, thank you, Terry.
That's where.
Yes. So, and then, but also adding it as a percentage of someone's salary, one, it's cumulative for the 1 year to the next. It just keeps going up and up and up. And also it inequitably benefits those at higher wages more. Because a higher percentage of a higher number is
A higher
more.
number.
So, and then it's also paid with the next year's budget. That's how it was always done because it was part of the salaries. So what we're proposing doing this year is making it a one-time payment at the end of the year instead of bundling it with the salaries in the next year. And creating amounts that are the same for everyone. If you get a 5 and you're full-time, you get this amount. If it's a 4, you get this amount, and so on and so forth. And then but it's also prorated based on hours. And then we're proposing that we use this year's money because we've had vacancies throughout the year. We haven't used all of our salary funds, so that's a good way to think about it. We can look at it annually, not to say that we would do this again. We don't know, who knows? But you can look at where are we now? What do we have? Can we afford to do this? And then make that decision instead of trying to say, yeah, we can do this next year. Sure.
So it really looks more like bonus / merit.
Yes.
It is.
Because we have the money to
a
cover
merit
it.
bonus.
It's a
Yep.
bonus
Yes.
for the people who have been here more than 6 months.
Yes. It's a merit bonus is what it is.
I have a question.
Yes,
Because it's linked to supervisor ratings, is that correct?
Yes.
Can you help me overcome my objection to the subjectivity of supervisor ratings? In other words, if I work for a really crummy boss,
Right. That's understandable. I will say a couple of things on that. One, in previous years, it was also done that way. And if we're, that's not a year-to-year difference is one thing, but two, I look at every single review, not to say that I am unbiased because I'm a human person. But I can't tell you how many reviews that I tell the manager, hey, you said this person is the best. They're the best one. Why did they get the same rating as this other person who you do not say is the best one? Why, they should be given a little bit more. Why aren't they getting a higher rating for that?
So you review and monitor.
Every single one. So I look at every single one, and then the director or chief also looks at them. And we will often say, hey, either you have not given us enough evidence to suggest that this person should be a 4 or a 5, or the other way around. Like, hey, did you not think about this one thing that they did that was huge? So there are more eyes on it than just that one manager making that decision.
I'm sorry, I keep interrupting your question. Go ahead.
Thank
I'll
you.
just be quiet for a moment.
yeah, I mean, I guess just coming from the school corporation background in terms of reviews, the board is always surprised that we have 95% highly effective teachers. And so do you work with directors to get some kind of uniformity in how they're doing this? Or, there is a tendency to not deliver bad news.
Right.
And
Yes.
to say, yeah, you're doing great because I don't want to tell you that you need improvement.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you, Ruth, I share your concern because there's always a human element, right? So we will always do continuous training on this topic, continuous review, working with our staff. But by and large, we do have a really great staff. So that helps. That makes it easier, right?
Right.
And we work really hard to train people who are not where they should be to get them to where they need to be. So yes, is it a perfect system? Did I say that right? No, it's not a perfect. No, it's not a perfect system, but I do think it's as fair as it can be.
And also, I think it's to know too that level 3, a rating of 3 is the base rating that would get a merit.
Which
bonus,
is satisfactory, meets.
which
all-
is meets requirements.
Yeah,
So the only people realistically that are not getting this are the people who haven't been here long enough or have some serious problems and are on a performance improvement plan. So everybody else who's just doing their job is getting it.
Thank you.
Same question, but different twist, but the distribution of this,
Mhm.
do you look at it in terms of a curve or a third, or do you try to force it in any direction?
In the past,
Becoming topic.
Yeah. right, in the past, it was always, only 5% should be fives. And so that was another reason to look at it across the board, because you have to say, okay. And we would tell managers this, okay, think about this, this is 5% across the entire organization, not necessarily just in your department. When you think of the stars, superstars that are in your department and outside of your department, are your people there? But we also adjusted, I adjusted them at the beginning of this year, the way that the distinguished or the level 5 was worded, because the way it was worded before was basically you have to have moved the entire organization forward
And worked on water.
and walked on water. But also, not every position, a shelter can't do that. It is impossible for them to do that. So it was really important to me to update that so that it said something that everybody could attain. So that has, and I expected it to increase the number of 5s in the system. And I think at this point, I would expect it between 7 and 10% for those 5s, and then maybe 20% for the 4s, and then basically everybody else, sans a few people who are struggling in the 3s.
So you're avoiding great inflation.
Right.
And that was
Right.
probably what I was thinking in my head is, when you're looking at your managers, some people like to give lots of 4s and
Yes.
5s, and
Oh,
others
yes.
like to give 3s.
Yes.
When we do evaluations in general,
Yes,
I'm sure you'll keep your eye on it, but
yes,
yes.
I do.
Other questions, comments?
I just, this might be getting too much in the weeds, so I apologize ahead of time, but having done assessments of teachers, the assessments that we used were very concrete. Like, you don't just say is warm to children, you say smiles often, makes eye contact, very concrete things that you can observe.
Mhm.
So my question, and I don't expect you to show me the whole thing, but it's just in my head, how concrete are those evaluations so that it is a truly observable thing that people have done, as opposed to they're just.
Right, there are some, there are a number of different factors that everyone is evaluated against, and under each of those, there are some really concrete examples of things that fall under that, and some a little more squishy.
But again, this is why she mentioned and referred to the sending it back for an example. So you said this person is a 5.
Right,
Give me an example. Tell me about a time
yes,
where they
exactly,
really shown.
yes.
That's great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anything
And
else?
often managers can do that.
Oh, yeah, that one time, oh, yeah, I remember that, yes.
And again, Human Resources 101, there should be no surprises at the end of the year.
Right,
Absolutely,
right.
Other questions?
I commend you guys.
thank you.
Thank you. So
Thank you,
let me
Margaret.
call for a motion. We have a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
Questions, discussion?
I would add that this is always the most complex part of anything, and you guys seem to have gotten it kind of under control for the moment.
Yeah.
This is.
We both have roles at the same time.
System.
Yeah, I can make sense out of it.
See.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Good.
With that, I will call for the vote. Marvin,
Yes.
Alan,
Aye.
Terry, Ann,
Aye.
John,
Hi.
Ruth,
Hi.
and I also approve. Thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you. With that, I'll say there's no other business. Do we have any visitors here?
I've been working on this.
Are you a visitor?
It's obvious.
Yes.
Okay.
You're on the agenda, Chad.
Oh,
We'll get you in
Oh,
one.
you're not a visitor, you are agenda. Okay.
Yeah, you're on the
Okay.
agenda.
Well, with that, we will move to not a visitor, but our news and educational items with Chad Reisky from Research and Digital Collections.
Oh,
Now it's.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about a couple of bits, agenda, yes.
No, you're fine. I'm gonna stand up because I wore nice shoes.
Very nice.
So hi, everyone. I'm Chad Racy, from Studio 304. I recognize a lot of your faces because you've either come in to have stuff printed, or, well, 3D printed or 2D printed. Yeah, so for those of you that aren't familiar with Studio 304, we are the library's digital media lab with some makerspace elements kind of sprinkled in there. And I took the trouble of writing stuff down today because I tend to talk a lot. So give me a moment here. Let me get my screen shared. All right, we'll have this done before I start. I'm excited. All right, so I'm in. Cool. I'll turn audio off there because I just want to show you my screen. Okay, so broadcast. I know. It's almost like I know what I'm doing. All right, so a couple points I wanted to touch on. While I've been looking at the library's strategic plan for 22 to 2024, it fits so nicely with Studio 304, it's almost weird, right? Because first off, the point of sparking the curiosity to learn, and everybody that steps through the door down there, they're looking around and I see a lot of jaws drop on a regular basis. So there's lots of things in there to explore, even though it's still looking plain, although that mural looks fantastic. There's still, yeah, we're still trying to be inviting. We're always open to people coming into our doors and asking about creating something they've never done before, or trying to bring an idea to fruition, and we're always glad to work with them to try to figure out how to do it right. The expanded access. That room has a lot of really expensive equipment with a lot of really expensive software, and for a lot of people, that is a big barrier. So when people come through the door and they find out they can use Photoshop for free, I mean, that by itself is a big thing. And then finding out we have recording equipment in there for them to come in and use. And the 3D printer, which, I mean, we charge 10 cents per gram of filament, pretty cheap. Our poster printer, we charge $5 a foot. From what we hear, we're operating at a loss down there, but that's fine because people are using it, right? So that's awesome too. The third point of ensuring that the library sustainability, because a lot of people in their heads, when they think of libraries, they think of a dusty hall full of books, right? But in Studio 304, we're exploring new technologies. We're opening up new possibilities. So it's a nice vehicle to keep the library moving into the future, I guess is what I'm getting at. And finally, the point of building a stronger community. This past summer, I don't know how many of you saw this, but we did something called creator meetups. And at the end of the summer, we did something called the creator showcase. So the point of the creator meetups was to get local creatives in a common space, to compare ideas and to build new skills. Because if you've ever gone down there, that room it's a nice meeting space because it's kind of big. You've got those big long tables in the center. There's lots of natural light. It's really nice. So we put out the invitation for people to come in to learn. We did a series of programs talking about different aspects of the studio space down there. So talking about 3D printing and video production and creating music and all of that stuff. So people were coming in for that, but then they were also coming in because I don't know about the rest of you, but 2020 community was a tough thing to find. I think everybody's been kind of starved for face-to-face interaction. And the group of people that came in for that. Fantastic. Oh, I'm sorry. There was another slide talking about this. One person in particular was a young woman by the name of Natasha Harris. She came in one day wondering if she could use one of our drawing pads. And we've got these nice new iPad Pros that have drawing apps on there. Because she wanted to work on improving her artistic skills, her drawing abilities. Because she'd grown up in a family which I never, it didn't really make sense to me. But apparently, growing up, she didn't feel that her family and her friends supported her dreams of being an artist, right? So when she came into Studio 304, she got into a conversation with my colleague Jennifer. And Jennifer is she's worked as a professional artist. She has lots of great advice. She's very welcoming, she's very encouraging, and it's really struck up this fantastic relationship where Natasha stops in maybe once a week, really just to say hi and to kind of give us an update on how she's doing. So it started with the drawing stuff, and now she's working at one of the local TV stations, actually working on the film crew. She was like, there's this volunteer thing that opened up, should I do it? And of course, like, go to the thing, because life is short, and when you pass up experiences, it doesn't benefit you. So she's really enjoying herself, and that's great to see. She's smiling so much more, so that's awesome. What else do I have going on here? So I've got the video of from the showcase, but it's like 10 minutes long. If you would ever like to see it, we've got it on the computers downstairs. But for the meetups, we had 14 participants, all from a variety of disciplines. I keep turning this, I'm sorry. for anybody watching the screen up there, I keep closing it. But everybody put together their work. We displayed it in the gallery space on the second floor, which that was up there for about a month and a half. So gave people a way to share their stuff with the community that probably wouldn't have sought them out, but they came in the library and they're like, oh, I wonder what's in here. So that was great for them getting exposure. At the end of the summer, along with the gallery space, we also used our auditorium over here for having them present in front of an audience, which was great. One of the presenters has worked for a big name board game manufacturer. Either Milton Bradley or Parker Brothers. And now she broke up to do her own thing, but she brought a ton of great advice for the younger people in the room, because of course there's the conversation of should I go to art college? Should I just go on my own? And it was a good debate there. But anywho, I wanted to demonstrate. No, okay. Sorry. Talking about accessibility. Creative applications on the iPads are great because they're really intuitive, and it's easy just to hand somebody an iPad and be like, here, you want to do some 3D modeling? Why don't you try this app called Nomad Sculpt? You've never used Photoshop before? Well, Procreate's a lot like Photoshop. So you can jump in there and use our Apple Pencils and jump in there. And then we also have a 3D scanner app, which, could I get a volunteer? Anyone? Really? And Rana, you have to know. Shouldn't have brought attention to yourself.
That's,
Oh, hold on. So I'm gonna have you stand in the center here. All right. And we're going to switch to this mode called True Depth. All right, and it gives kind of this funky image here. So let's see. I need to get kind of close to you. All right, stand still. Or else you'll be all warped. So it is using the camera, and it is also using a LiDAR sensor on this iPad to make a scan of the surface here. So it's snapping a large series of images, and then it's going to analyze where all those images were taken from. And it's going to hang upside down apparently. But we're going to start it, right? And it's going to go in and it's going to generate this model here. So theoretically, after it's created this model, we can take this, and I mean, you'd be tiny. But we can print you, we can print a model of you off of the 3D printer.
Creepy.
Here, you can take me to where.
It's still putting it together, right? So it's got, it generated a point cloud. And then we're going to see if it did an all right job.
And anybody can come in any day and you'll just teach them how to use it.
Yeah, it's really fun to experiment with.
Model of yourself, all your friends.
You can make a really good model of your head that somebody can hang on their Christmas tree.
I 100% want to do that for my kids for Christmas now. Christmas ornaments of
Make sure
mom.
they don't stick pins in, yes.
Now, I say theoretically it should work, right?
Okay.
But this is new technology, but that's cool because we're kind of keeping our finger on the pulse of new technology, because, I mean, Apple continues to innovate, right? And we're, of course, going to take advantage of that. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so
there's a.
There's
Ryan floating around.
Is this software something we own here, or is this?
Get
this?
This iPad this belongs to Studio 304. So we've got 4 of these iPad Pros. And the 3D scanner app is actually a free app. But it only works on iPads that have the LiDAR scanner. So it has to be, for iPhones, it has to be, I think, the iPhone 12 or above. With the iPad Pro, and I'm not sure what number this is, but I know it's a newer one because it's got the sensor on there. So,
Wouldn't be my 2 from 20 years ago.
but all that people have to do is come into the studio and ask to use one of our iPads. They can pull up the app on there. Now, a lot of people come in and learn to recreate small mechanical pieces, right? It's not quite there yet for small mechanical stuff. So they're still working on that, but we're gonna keep an eye on it to see what develops. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure you'll be available for questions, or better yet, go visit.
Yes.
Bring friends.
Okay, with that, I would move for a motion to adjourn. Thank you very much, by the way, yes. Do I hear a second? I'll do, pardon?
You want to set the next date?
They're here.
Oh, I do want to set the next date. We will be right in this room on Monday, December 19th at 4:15 p.m. With that, I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Second? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.